All right, so hello everyone, and welcome to another expert session number 115. Today's session is sponsored by VTEX. VTEX is a global commerce platform helping brands and retailers operate across digital commerce, marketplaces, and omnichannel environments. And Acclaim AI. Acclaim AI helps enterprises automate customer interactions through voice AI while maintaining compliance, governance, and operational control in regulated industries. Thank you to VTEX and Acclaim for supporting Evolve and helping bring these conversations to our community. So what is Evolve? Evolve is a private community connecting senior operators, founders, investors, advisors, and technology leaders across nearly now 50 markets. Through expert sessions, curated introductions, and in-person gatherings, we help experienced professionals build relationships that create opportunities across borders. Our guest today, Berenger Fuchs. Berenger has spent more than 2 decades helping some of the world's most influential organizations understand consumer behavior, commerce, and digital adoption. Her career includes leadership roles across Amazon, eBay, and Kantar, giving her a unique perspective on how trust is built between consumers, brands, and technology platforms. Recently, she published a thought-provoking article exploring a question many businesses are beginning to face. AI may be capable of acting on our behalf, but has it earned our trust? Berenger, as you know, I have my opening question, which I ask everyone. So the opening question for you is, everybody seems focused on whether AI is capable enough. Shouldn't the more important question be whether AI is trustworthy enough? If you gave an AI agent access to your calendar, inbox, and credit card today, what would stop you?
Okay, thank you. I think I will start by saying that AI was born in labs environment, in places where experiment and science and trying and error was the norm. And the way that actually people are using it and discovering it is the same thing. So people are experimenting, whether consumer or enterprise. And we are the place where the conversation is a lot about can something be done before the condition of why and the value that it will create first. And I think it's especially true in the agentic commerce world. So to set up the scene, I may just start with a story. In November last year, that seems prehistory, I know. We were all asking, in these circles about what will happen to a buy button in ChatGPT. This was, put into chat. There were discussions with a number of marketplaces to be able to open it to merchant. Etsy was part of it. Miracle was part of this discussion as well. And there were also a lot of discussions about what it meant for the entire ecosystem that goes behind that, in terms of, especially search being redefined or product pages not being needed anymore. This was November last year. Since what we have learned is that this buy button was not ready. Actually, the usage has not followed. The conversation was there, the keynotes were there, but the usage has not started, up to the point that there is a new things that are starting up now, with especially with a chat doing recommendation, a little bit more like Google is doing ad actually at the moment and putting that in place, while other Gen AI actors are thinking about how to do the agentic commerce. So it's a shifting world. And it's also fascinating to see the experiment and the learning that is coming from there.
All right. And to set the scene, since you touched the point about consumers. Mm-hmm. So we are all, again, talking about whether AI can perform tasks and whatnot. So the question I prepared here is like OpenAI, Anthropic, and others have demonstrated agents that can browse websites, complete workflows, and interact with software. So what do you think has to happen before consumer trusts AI? What has to happen before consumers trust AI to do these things without supervision?
Okay, so I will be very blunt. I don't think that trust has gained the trust of consumer now, especially in what you describe here. Giving the keys of a decision from that. But that doesn't mean that actually consumers are very passive about it. I think one of the biggest change that we have seen recently is Google AI summaries. So even people that are actually very anti-AI or doesn't want to use AI, most of them are already using AI if they are reading the AI summary in Google, and it is served to them. So we are in this relatively weird way where we have groups of people that are very, very advanced in their use of agentic AI. Carlos, the people that are actually opening their calendar, the people that are building agents, the people that are maybe building the entire apps. I think, Katie, you were talking about coding your own apps about this. So we know, because that's part of our cycle, we have people that are doing that. And then on the end of the spectrum, people that wants to stay very far from it, but still have the AI summary served on Google. And that's the spectrum in terms of what we are, in terms of usage of AI. So asking the question in a very simple way, saying where is agentic commerce is difficult, because we have this entire spectrum of different attitudes and context towards AI, high usage in some places, reluctance in some others, but a ubiquity of AI now. And I think that's the most important thing. Actually, Hendrik, you said it. There is no conversation today that is not about AI somewhere. And so it's a lot about actually where we are, all of us, in terms of our own experiment, what we have tried, what we have seen does not working, what we have played with it. And it's the same thing, and I'm taking my breath, but it's the same thing for consumer in the way that they are also experimenting a lot, even if they don't talk about it. So in AI summaries, but then also in conversation that they have. And one of my learning from the research that I've done is that there are a lot of blank spaces where the data is overwhelming, where it's difficult for consumer to get a very neat answer from what was there before. So that's where they invest a lot of time to get answer from AI in those blank spaces, and I'm sure we will cover some of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, sure thing. I think Vlad is someone who's building products and mostly on the B2B for companies, right, Vlad? So I think your perspective there there's a perspective from Vlad as a user, AI user, but also as someone who's creating products and how your clients are using your products. I think that is interesting to hear from you also, and then perhaps you like to follow up to have a follow-up question for Berengere. And yeah.
Definitely. So first, Berengere, I 100% agree with what you were saying. It really resonated with me, and the conversations I had about personal usage being a bit different, because this is one of those technologies which is definitely adopted by B2B first. One of the latest product that I'm building is about AI visibility and being present in Google AI overviews and ChatGPT and so on and so forth. And I think everyone understands the need for that when it comes to B2B, to being a business. And we see the usage, we see that 90+% of people use those tools when they're searching for solutions. But for personal, I think it's first a matter of people not trusting it, but then also, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, it's also about the experience. Do you really want to delegate the experience of buying a trip to, I don't know, Bahamas, for example, right? Sure, maybe AI can do it, but that's also, it's a ritual. And I think we will want to keep some of that. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, yes, can we is one question, but then should we, and to what degree? Because I'm sure some things that we hate to do, like buying a new printer, for example, 100%. I would delegate that to AI tomorrow, but not everything, I think.
Yeah, now you're touching on something that is age-old true, which is that in retail, everything depends on the category and the context. So yeah, totally. And thinking about that, we will replace all type of shopping experience by a conversation into a chatbot is not actually, it's not only not realistic, but it's actually ignoring the reality of why people are shopping in the first place. It's a human activity that brings much more than just the item on the desk or at the door. So that's where I'm sure that AI will play a role, but it will be different per category. It will be very dependent on the context, and it also has to deal with a bit of thickness in terms of how to deal with it. And again, it's the thickness is also about deliveries, return, payment, policy, tax, all of the things that are difficult for commerce. We have built a number of things to make them better, but that doesn't mean that they will completely be collapsed into a conversation with AI. So that's kind of the environment where we are working on. What I think it will bring, and I do like the fact that one of the stats that Amazon have shared recently is that it's with Rufus, so the robots that you can talk to within Amazon. People that are talking with Rufus or using Rufus have a 60% more likeliness to purchase. So everybody is kind of very excited about this this funding, because it's one of the things to say, okay, well, when there is a conversation, there is a higher return, higher intent, higher way of purchasing. I think it's true, because we just have to recognize that the current online experience is not the best possible experience that could be on the planet, or in the human history, even for commerce. So yes, of course, something new will come with something better. However, though, in the case of Rufus and in the case of Amazon, it's a conversation that is happening already within the Amazon ecosystem. Something and a platform very well, a brand that you probably trust. And within the even Amazon Trust ecosystem as well. So, are you talking 3P versus 1P? What is the type of item that you want? Maybe even Rufus in itself knows a lot about you with your history, the way you want items. All of this is not part of the conversation where you are not on the retailer platform, which means that on the very short term, and Alexei, you asked me to be precise, so I will give you a precision here. I think that on the very short term, what will be more important is to develop AI within the retailer ecosystem already. So think about Rufus to try to find an item, on the other type of retailer. Think about replacing a keyword search by a conversation into an environment that think about in a way trying to get the history of who you are in terms of a better personalization in the retailer ecosystem or in the type of website that you are looking at.
Thank you. And I think I'd like to perhaps it's not taking a different segue, but since we have Tim and Stuart and these guys, they built pretty much the infrastructure of retail and e-commerce. Maybe they're also in a position to share some concrete examples on what they are seeing like firsthand, right? Maybe Tim or your clients. What are they demanding? I think it would be interesting to hear from you, because in my opinion, there's an infrastructure being built at this very moment, which is the LLMs and GPTs, and so. We all talk about how cool it is to buy with a click on GPT, but then you need security there, and there's a bunch of stuff like in the back end that needs to happen as well. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah.
Well, I think you touched on it correctly earlier, that there's a lot of infrastructure, but there's also a lot of prep work, and I think as an industry, we're running at this cool new tech, as we always do, right? It was the same thing when Twitter came out, as there was a a gold rush of, look, you can put tweets out and suddenly you get thousands of people buying from you, but then more people come on. I mean, it's interesting. Within our customer base, there's a curiosity around AI. People, retailers, clients, they want to use it, but they don't quite know how yet. And we as an agency, as I've talked about before, are getting a lot of gains, especially with filling in gaps in skills that we don't necessarily have. So when it comes to briefs, I think with retailers specifically at the moment, we're finding they're focusing more on how to appear in the results.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of sort of the AEO and sort of the how do we get into AI's data set? And I find it interesting because they think this is new. And yes, there are new data structures that you can go and use and data formats, but the reality is just SEO on another level. If you wrote compelling content for a human, you know what? AI finds it interesting and serves it up to people as well. And so I think we're getting a lot of traffic from AI already, and it tends to be the more niche companies. So we've got a customer of ours that deals with sort of very large nuclear power stations and surge protection and identifying the sort of the cabling safe. Their traffic has just gone astronomical because there are a lot of people researching sort of what is arc flash, and because they've done so much content across YouTube and blogs and whatever over the years, it's coming through. The actual retailers asking us to sell, it's not an ask we've had, which is really interesting. We're not getting asked, how do we get our products sold through agents? Because I think, as you were saying before, there's an element of trust when it comes to the money. I think they want to enable the flows. I think that's fair. So they want to know that their system can support it. But it's more about still, how do I get people off ChatGPT, off Claude, off Gemini, onto my platform? And I think that's kind of where we are as an industry. I don't know whether others feel the same, but that's where it feels like we are at the moment. People are still trying to get traffic to them, if that makes sense.
Stuart, perhaps if you could share what you're seeing in your world, as well as someone who develops tech and has
so I mean, you know my view on it. We're always foundations first, and AI. So AI doesn't touch our world that much. Okay, we're building for people to use AI through it. But I've just come off we're doing a launch very soon for a company called Hotbox Saunas, which are the most beautiful Irish coast or US saunas. You book them. We've been building that for ages. And it's complex, but it's all about the user flow. That's what they want. At no point do they talk to us about AI, and I think that's almost the right way. Like, still build the foundations right, build the right things for everyone, and then from there, AI will learn how to deal with the right websites. But I love what you said about the fact there are no good web experiences out there, or there are very few, and that's why we always went to Headless was down to the fact that actually the experiences that most people have on websites are pretty darn horrible. And I spend a lot of time on a certain cricket website that's on Shopify because my kids are playing reasonably high level cricket. So they've given us 40% off, like 40% off on this cricket website. Most of the people I talk to in the same sort of county age group have such a horrible experience on that website that they are looking to buy elsewhere, even with a 40% discount. Now, like, it's great if they layer in AI, which they probably will. Like, they'll layer in some form of AI on the top of that website. It will never get around the fact that the website is fundamentally awful. Search doesn't work, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. And where I got all excited about, obviously, Headless with Shopify, is that I do think Headless fixes some of this. I'm not going to claim it fixes all of it, but it fixes a lot of the front end, a lot of the omnichannel. And also that's what drove us to build SiteBeacon, because again, if you don't get the foundations right, web accessibility, lower carbon, good core web vitals, then you don't get the agents through as well. So, I mean, what are we seeing in the market? Less demand because no one can quite work out what to do. I think we'd all probably say maybe it's a bit quieter than so AI is having a hit, but I think it's more that people sort of are not sure rather than. I mean, I don't know if that Tim, maybe you've got similar on that, but.
Well, I was just curious actually from one of the things you were saying there, and you're talking about the foundations, which I think is absolutely right. Again, it's sort of good content, it's sort of making sure it's accessible and whatnot. But you mentioned sort of the environmental impact and the carbon impact there.
Yeah.
How are you factoring that into the conversations? I think sort of 3 years ago was all very much, this is our carbon impact to the world. This is how good or bad our site is. But now AI is kind of blown that out of the water. Like as soon as you sort of involve your company with any form of AI, your environmental footprint is destroyed, right? I mean, let's face it. How are you handling or calculating that in?
So we built a tool to do it. Basically, so that's one of the elements of SiteBeacon. That's where SiteBeacon started before we realised the demand wasn't quite there, or a change of president in the US meant that carbon came off a lot of people's agenda. But I mean, carbon's a difficult one, and I know that we will change the conversation in a few years' time. But I do think that whatever you do with carbon, if you can reduce it as much as your own impact as much as you possibly can, then we'll all be in a better state. You can't avoid using AI, but if a web page is what we've seen up to 60 grams of carbon per page view for one of the top out-of-home advertising companies, had a 60 grams per page view. You should be below 1. You should be below 0.5 gram per page view. So, okay, I get it, but you times that by, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 visitors. It's not going to change your trips on aeroplanes, but let's face it, we should all do a little bit more in a lot of areas. So I do think I do get your point, and it's one I've struggled with, but I do think as much as you can reduce, you should reduce. What's the point of having a 50 gigabyte video on your homepage when no one can even download it and load it?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found interesting as well in the latest discussions about the cost of AI and the tokens and how you're replacing an H count cost with a token cost, is that it's the first time that actually there is a little bit of a pivot to think about economically about your own usage of AI. And I think this will start also to come and to bring some constraint into the ecosystem, which is needed to, by the way, to have a better information about what we want to do and where we want to create. For me, it's very important that at the end of the day, AI is net positive and create value. And all the conversation where I see AI will replace that, AI will do that, we will automate all of this. Most of the time, we're talking first about automation, we're talking first about reducing, but not about creating value. And I think in the commerce ecosystem or in the consumer ecosystem in general, AI need to be net positive, as including for carbon, Stuart, but to really create value for the consumer. And that's why I'm talking about personalization, or I'm talking about finding the item better on the first place, compared to just doing something in a quicker and cheaper way, because that's where I don't think that there is value created, and I don't think that at the end it will change the world.
Brilliant, thank you, Hendrik. Go ahead.
Yeah, Hendrik was first, so go ahead.
Yeah.
So thanks guys. So I'll tell you what I'm seeing from the marketplace world. So Berenger, let me just say this to you. I take Amazon's wording about Rufus with a massive pinch of salt, because they forced it onto customers. I will tell you all that the day that they announced that Rufus was shown the doghouse door and it was replaced with Alexa for shopping, essentially brands got absolutely annihilated in terms of their content. I'm seeing from the clients that I'm working, it's very clear that certain sectors were hard hit. Not going to make those publics because I'll get into trouble. But my general takeaway from everything that I've learned thus far is that, one, I think from a B2B angle, Agentic helps. From a B2C standpoint, with the exception of Google, I'm not seeing it. I think the biggest challenge that we all have is that at the moment we are speculating on numbers that we haven't seen. So I'll just put my hand up here, so making sure that you can see this. I cannot wait to see Anthropic's S1, so we actually get financial information about what's going on. The thing for me about how this conversation for today lined up in my head is that, and Stuart kind of mentioned this without mentioning it, I'm seeing a divide. So if you're a legacy brand that has a huge budget, let's make it 7, 8, 9, 10, not 10 figures, 7, 8, 9 budget a year, you are working with best-in-class providers to ensure that your products can be found by whatever model. Go. Then we have the middle of the market that are basically saying, we have no idea what we're going to do, so we're not going to do anything, which is not a strategy, but that's a story for another day. And then I get to the place in the market, on the marketplaces that I'm really worried about. And those are the smaller sellers that are doing less than €1 million, pounds, dollars, whatever you want to call it. Because these people have gotten taken off at the knees to the point where I've said to my clients, and I know this is going to be public, so I don't particularly care that this is going to be out in the public domain. I fear that agentic commerce is going to cut down a lot of brands because people don't understand the importance. I think it benefits the legacy brands because they've got more funding, so they can use best in class. But I think that from the consumer side, I will just say this. I live in a country where none of the agents actually have a good shopping experience. And I shared in the window in a message with you all an article that I think is going to be a very big deal moving into the next 18 months. In Germany, 2 weeks ago, Google got found liable for the data that is in their agentic previews. That's never been the case. What this means is that as a brand, you now have to ensure that the content that you have out there about you is accurate. If you don't, this is going to come back to bite you. To answer the question that I think about all of this, and maybe I'm just hogging the mic here, but I need to just get this off my chest because it's been burning my mind for a while. I think we are 12 to 24 months away from agentic actually being something that can be attained. I've not seen anything by everybody that doesn't do it. I'm going to just stop there because I can talk on this topic for a while, but I think we need to just very clearly mention that they are the haves that are going to be just fine, and then we're going to have the have-nots, which I think are in bigger problems than what I think they are real. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. Happy to talk with everybody who wants to talk about this offline. Thank you.
Good. We have Vlad. Vlad and then Alexis.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Well, to be fair, my point was very similar to yours, Hendrik, so I'm going to continue to your idea. But I think to add on top of that, I wanted to mention that from the 100 and something brands that I went through the tool already, AI is famously gonna recommend the top 2 to 3 brands. And the top 2 to 3 brands means what? Means the brands that are mentioned on multiple domains, right? So not just yours. If it's just one domain, that's like 5% of the suggestion power, let's call it that. The rest of 95 is where are you mentioned otherwise. So there is another, unfortunately, another argument towards, yes, the lower end, the smaller brands being cut off, because of course, every time you ask, AI is going to recommend the same 2, 3, 5. That being said, I do think, and one thing that we haven't maybe touched on as much here is the discovery part of the sales process, which is, in my opinion, and I agree with you, by the way, Hendrik, that agentic end-to-end is not here. It's probably going to be here in a year or so, but the discovery part is kind of here, right? The people are using, it is an acquisition channel, if you will. And I think for that, consumers already need to, well, not consumers, consumer brands already need to account for. But I maybe I want to bring this back to Berengere and see what you think about it as well.
Yeah. So, okay. So I think I'm not completely sold on the big versus small being completely always for the big. I understand what you're saying, and I don't say that I have a perfect view of the from the bridge that can tell me no it's not. But I do what I've researched is that AI do like a lot social proof. AI do like a lot people talking about the brand and in a good terms. AI love reviews. So whether Trustpilot of Google reviews, or I think we all know AI love Reddit in a way that was a little bit unexpected, I think, from from all of us. And so there is it is true, the large brand might benefit. Of course they will. The concentration, that's the logic of business in a way. But there is also, I think, for me, an opportunity for brands that have very consistent in their branding, value, and positioning, brands that have a large amount of fans, advocate, people behind them, and so to be able to actually do with that. And I think on the other side, it's also for the consumer to not use AI slop. And maybe a few of us are doing a bit of content with AI. We know that we should not take the first answer. And the good value from AI is actually within the discussion and in the pushback and in the challenge. So I think for me it's also about, in a way, teaching customers or consumers how to search with AI to find the right brands that they need. But I really believe, though, that brands that have a very consistent voice will also benefit from the change.
Yep, 100%.
Alexis, go ahead. Thanks. Thank you, Vlad.
So I would like to jump back to the original thesis. We were talking about agentic AI and trust. And throughout my preparation for the moderation next week, we had the discussion when it came to service and agentic AI. So which is perceived as a chatbot is sometimes still a chatbot, but sometimes it's an agent, an AI agent, taking over the task and doing first and second level support. And I even have a friend in my inner circle who works for a company that literally sells multi-stage agents, especially for insurances. And it's so crazy and so smart how this first and second level phone calls and requests are being taken over. So there is so much potential when we look at the end consumer perspective. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, how do channels like WhatsApp, for example, or own company apps become, to what extent do they become more important? And is agentic still a trust issue there? Or are we so close to the customer already that, they will...
So that's a good question. The trust element of your question is something I need to think about. But the first thing I want to say is that, and that's part of what Tim and Stuart were talking about, I think this world is multi-channel, but to on steroids. The kind of the view that, I mean, start on Google, we then go to a website, then we go to a product page, and then a checkout, and then delivery. This is prehistory. Of course, everything is on different level. Social commerce, WhatsApp, the app of a retailer, of a brand, and so all of those touch points needs to be interacted into what we call customer experience, and bring that to life. Now, I want to take one example that I heard last week, actually, at an event. It was from NatWest, head of AI and security and risk, actually, head of risk. And he was saying that they have one of the team that was the most reluctant to use AI so it's a bank. We are in the most regulated environment possible. And the team that was one of the most reluctant to use AI was the team handling complaints. So you can understand the kind of a high stake in terms of customer relationship here. They were contacting the bank because there was a problem. They were bringing a complaint, and they actually trained their own AI on a closed circuit to answer, as you said, Alexei, first and second handled, and they kind of have articulated the agent as even kind of a part of the team. In this case, they give the agent a name, and they were part of the meeting. Now, with a lot of big principle of always having a human in the loop before, especially sending any customer relationship interaction. I really like this example because I feel that it shows that a lot can be done, but not quickly. It's not about rushing. It's not about just shopping on the first thing or jumping on the first thing that is shiny. It's really about thinking, okay, what can I do better in my processes using those new technology? It's the same thing that we have been doing for decades. We just need to also take a little bit of time to make it work.
Thank you.
Henry.
I would add to that, to what Alexandra's asked, is I increasingly think the brands who are going to win are those who understand the importance of earned media. So in the past, the focus was on acquisition, the focus was on retention. But I think with this new world and the multi-touch, multi-channel, whatever you want to call it, I think the earned media and the signals it provides to these models, I think becomes a much bigger, important piece of brands planning. I've not seen this anywhere else. I've seen this firsthand. To Berenger's point about Reddit, Reddit also has its challenges. Brands have to walk a very fine line, but I think the biggest thing that I've learned working with brands of all shapes and sizes with regards to this new world is that it sounds really weird to say this, but the stuff that we've been doing for the last 10 to 15 years, the basics are now more important than what it was before this. Because if you don't understand that, then all these other shiny objects that happen basically become what Stuart explained with the cricket brand, where you are going to lose consumers because it's just there's no relevance to the consumer to go to it. So to Alexandra's, I would add to your question is, I think for trust as well as for the consumer side and for the business side, I think earned media now becomes significantly more important, and understanding how you weave that into your marketing is a massively important thing that I've not seen on anybody's radar year to date. Thanks.
I was writing in the chat. Thank you, Hendrik. But I think back to Alex's point on this technology and WhatsApp and whatnot. Acclaim AI, which is our sponsor, they operate in highly regulated environments, and so they started with a bank in Southeast Asia. So this bank, more than 60% of the customer service today is already is done by their AI, which is an AI voice technology. And I mean, we tested this in Brazil. It goes down to the accent of a person in the country. So for example, in the UK, you have multiple accents. The AI can go down to the accent, and the latency is quite low, which means that it's fast, so it's really impressive. And I mean, going back to the point of NatWest, I think one of the first, if people were reluctant to test in the customer operations, is because they, in my opinion, they may be fearing losing their jobs, starting from, from top management, because like Mariano said, when Alexis interviewed him Mariano is the founder of VTEX, co-founder, like there's going to be less management in companies today. So you're probably cutting 1 or 2 layers of management. And so organizations are going to be more nimble, and I think that's very interesting. Like more than 60% already done by a tech. So I think sorry, and I think some countries, they're going to be faster, or maybe verticals when it comes to sectors, and then the market will follow, because it's inevitable that you're seeing that your competitors there is making more money, and you have this so I think it comes down to the countries, or to the verticals. So some countries are gonna be faster, some countries don't care at all. Like we don't know what's in China. The UK may regulate more, but at some point, are you gonna be less competitive because of regulation?
And what is very true in what you said is that in organization where you want to implement AI, if you start by saying we will make some cost saving with it, and you already have the entire organization against you. And so in these cases, on the NatWest example, but I have others from company I've worked with, it start from starting. We want to continue to do what we are doing well, but we want to do it in an enhanced perspective while using AI or another technology. It's like the same thing as about digital transformation. When websites were created, it's a new technology, it's a new way to engage with the customer. But I think to come back to what it is, it's also why it's important to. In the case of NatWest, where they were very clear, is that they used the expertise of the people that were there. And so the AI in itself could not do this beautiful automation or this beautiful, ways of working without all the accumulated knowledge of the people that have served that for a long time. And so the question is how to use better this, and then provide also opportunity for those people and those organizations to continue to fulfill that mission, and also do other things to bring that to life. And in terms of retail or in the commerce expertise or perspective, to be honest, I actually welcome having the most tedious part of shopping being made better. When you think about it, looking for comparing the type of battery that you need to put into something, thinking about another part which I'm expecting a lot to be different. It's cars, for example, high ticket item. Today, the purchase journey for a car is extremely weird in a way. You go to a place, you look at different options, you can't choose them. You can't really choose your car, or they really go into the detail of the car. So there will be changes here, and I just want or hope or pray, I don't know, depending on the day, that we have as collectively the wisdom to really think about what is important in a transaction and in finding the best item, and why the customer is there in the first place, to really make this something that is good for them at the end.
Brilliant. I think this is such a fascinating discussion, because we're discussing society in the end, more than a piece of technology. KT, please ask your question.
I've been thinking about it a bit more now. It's about, I came from Southeast Asia. I have worked across China and Asia. And, obviously we see the rise of Temu and Shein and how fast they have taken, I would say, gaming techniques, like how you get people to play games into e-commerce. And soon we got that picked up in e-commerce space here as well in Europe and as well as in US. I think it'd be great to have everybody's mind here to actually debate about is trust built upon gamification in e-commerce, or is it lost? And also let's not forget, right? Each customer segment shops differently.
Yeah.
Some segments and some customer demographics actually are more attuned to being to like the gamification of that. So does that make the bigger brands better or the smaller brands better? I might have a contrarian view to say that if you're a smaller brand and you're willing to play or maybe use AI for gamification, you could actually overcome some of the larger brands. So I would love to hear that view.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and thank you for bringing completely different perspective on this. While you were talking, I was actually thinking that it's probably what have saved eBay from annihilation. The fact that when thinking about 10 years ago, when we were in a
yeah, I thought it was me. So
places, the fact that yeah. So then from that, sorry, Carlos, you want to close the conversation?
No, because you froze, and I was just making sure it was me. Sorry.
Yeah. To come back a little bit more onto your question, Katie, you're totally right that different experiences goes with different type of people, different parts of the world, different category, all of this, and we can't choose one. And that's where I don't like agentic commerce, because fundamentally, I think agentic commerce is kind of completely remove shopping from existence, and I don't buy that. If you have look at my article, I start by being in Pompeii and looking at items that were there in the Roman times, and that it's already product pages like the one we have. So we will not remove commerce or shopping from the human experience, but we need to make it better. And that's what I think the technology can help us.
Very, very, very good.
Sure. Quick note on that point, and this is the optimist in me speaking. What we call agentic shopping right now is essentially using a chat interface to shop, right? There is a future, which I hope we achieve, where agentic shopping is actually customizing the shopping experience to what each individual likes. So maybe I like to have just a very basic example of a table of all options. Maybe I like to have a video experience. I do believe that the technology will get to a point where you can have that, and then agentic commerce becomes customizing the experience to each individual, as opposed to trying to force everyone to use a chat, which for me, it's not the preferred way of doing most things.
Understood.
I will just, thank you, Alexis. Amazing. I'll just share something that sometimes I like to do this stuff. But so here I was just, while you guys were speaking, looking, how many users does ChatGPT has today? So about 900 or a billion, I don't know. But about 5 to 6%, they're paying for this, and I didn't go down to so weekly active users, monthly active users. So in the end, and going back to the conversational commerce piece that Hendrik said, again, some countries, Tim and I, we had a discussion about this. They were part of the sort of the inception of the internet. That's how I see it. So the UK, the US, some other countries like South Africa and Brazil, yes, but then I think we leaped. There was a movement to leapfrog a lot of stuff. So, for example, in Brazil, we use WhatsApp like some people challenge me that the community wouldn't work on WhatsApp, and it does because people are there. So it's more like how you make this happen, because it's hard. You're getting notifications all the time, but it works. Like in Europe, especially in Denmark, people were challenging me, saying, "Hey, this not it works," you know. Going back to what you're saying, I think with so many users today, like the change comes from the consumers, right? Consumers like using GPT, and then or whatever platform they decide to use, whether it's Anthropic. So the masses, in this case, they're going to sort of, I think, drive what they want. And of course, then you have the government in the US saying, "Hey, Anthropic and whatever," and then you have Dario Amodei saying, "Okay, we're not doing business with you." So then you start having this this sort of current. I don't even know what I'm saying here, but I think it's driven by the consumer. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, that I don't know. It's the way I can't do differently than starting from customer and work backwards. Sorry, this was but it is true. The thing which is very fascinating here is that consumers are already using AI, and so when we say, "Oh, what is they are using it." The numbers that you show, they are using it. Now they're not using it everywhere. They're not, and that's where it's interesting. For some people, they will trust AI in places where they're not that. So I would come back on my idea of the blank spaces. There are parts of the customer experience that are not well served today. For patient or course at university you want to play. Why those are blank space served?
I was just saying it was breaking. Is it for you as well? Is Berengere breaking in?
It was. But I'm back. I'm back. I can see you now also.
Okay.
So and so those blank spaces are places where there is a lot. I remove the camera for some time.
Yeah.
Blank spaces have a lot. There is a lot of data, and it's very difficult for consumer to make a choice. And in reality, e-commerce and shopping is not one of that, because it's been 10, 15 years that we had online shopping. That 30% of Google search were about looking for an item to buy. But thinking about the other 60%, and it's the thing in chat and in the other. This is the other, the other queries that people are doing that are not about trying to find an item to buy. I do think as operators in e-commerce, operators in AI, that's where we have something to build. Now you cannot see me, but you see a little saxophone on my instead of me. Music is also one of those pieces where by using AI, we may actually be able to train the entire population to play an instrument. And I think that's the type of things where we can play and try to find the value beyond what we are doing now and on just replicating what we are doing now.
Brilliant, amazing, Berengere. All right, so I think we reached the time here. Berengere, people want to know more about you and connect with you and hire you, partner.
LinkedIn. I put my LinkedIn profile here. I'm also setting up a strategic advisory practice. So any conversation, any discussion, I'm really happy to help. I will also, as part put in the chat the article that I was talking about. I think this conversation was great because we were going, far and beyond, and I think I can feel also all of the different discussions and tension that there is behind it.
Amazing. Thank you for your time today, ladies and gents. Do you have more comments? I think this was a really nice session. So Tim, Stuart, Hendrik, Katie, Gustavo, we have people that I have never seen. You're very welcome here at Evolve. Any final remarks? Hendrik, you're very good at doing final remarks.
So today's conversation, I think, highlighted how and why evolve basically pushes people to think. We had one of the few times we've had B2C and B2B discussed at the same time, which doesn't happen, frankly. We had folks that run agencies that essentially laid the groundwork for brands. I think what I've heard from today's conversation is that there are more questions than answers for the question about trust with agentic AI. As I said when we started, I think agentic is fast becoming a word that is losing its meaning, whatever it means. Great, but I think the most interesting thing is that the conversation for me boiled down to, at the end of the day, about early adopters and what brands and platforms are going to be doing with those early adopters of the technology. I will just politely point out again that I think we will learn more once we see the IPO documentation from OpenAI and Anthropic, because all of these things cost lots of money. And at the moment, that is a barrier. Let's just be frank. You can't really do anything except building on other people's platforms, which we all know generally ends up in tears. So I enjoyed today's conversation, and I think I'm leaving with more questions about my own thinking about this, because for me, the one situation that I wasn't really sure about was the highly regulated sectors like finance et al. I think that's an interesting point. Other than that, yeah, I like this format as always because we get to learn from people in different places. I have no idea what Carlos has planned for next week. Please tell me soon so that we can fix this, so that I can make a plan for my calendar. But yes, nice to see everybody, and I'm leaving with more questions than answers. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Hendrik. Thank you very much, everyone. Final question: 6 p.m. CET, 5 p.m. UK. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you guys think? Stuart, good. Well, I can't please everyone, but it has been a winner lately.
Cricket season doesn't last that long, so I don't think you should change it for that.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Berengere.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.